As commercial satellite eyes start going dark over the Middle East, is this happening just as Iran is most eager to prove what US missiles and bombs have actually done on the ground? If satellite feeds suddenly slow right when US bases and refineries are taking hits, is Trump quietly leaning on space firms to stop the world from seeing American losses in real time? When Planet Labs extends its image delay from 4 days to 2 weeks just after Iranian missiles slam US and allied sites, is that really about safety, or about blacking out fresh scars on the map? And if imagery of Iran's own critical sites is blurred too, does that hint at secret ground raids or nuclear seizures being planned far from public view? Are US officials more afraid of Iranian missiles, or of crystal-clear satellite proof showing how accurately those missiles have been hitting American assets and Arab energy hubs? With real pictures censored and AI fakes rushing into the vacuum, has this conflict quietly turned into a narrative war where each side fights to control what the world thinks it sees from space? As the Iran war intensifies, critical high-resolution satellite images of the Middle East are starting to vanish from public feeds that open-source intelligence analysts once relied on daily. For the past decade, commercial satellite photos have been the backbone of open-source intelligence, letting outsiders see bomb craters, damaged runways, and scorched refineries without a security clearance. Analysts, journalists, and activists use those images to track war damage and verify, or debunk, military claims made by Washington, Tehran, and their allies. But as fighting spreads from Iran to the Gulf and beyond, many of the most important snapshots are simply not appearing at all, or are arriving weeks late. The Economist warns this rollback is shattering a decade of growing transparency over conflict zones, pushing the world back toward an information dark age. On March 6, open-source sleuths noticed that fresh satellite images of Iran's coastline, islands, and key bases had quietly stopped appearing in Planet Labs feeds. Planet Labs, once praised as the most open imagery firm in the business, had suddenly imposed much longer delays on pictures from the region. A standard 4-day lag for high-resolution Middle East imagery jumped to a full 2-week blackout window, covering the most intense phase of the war. The company said the blackout applies to all of Iran, nearby allied bases, the Gulf states, and active conflict zones, effectively spanning the entire theater of this war. Some business intelligence and commercial customers were reportedly furious, since they also used those images to track pipelines, ports, and trade flows. Planet says the change is temporary and meant to limit risk, that its imagery could be used by adversaries to help plan fresh attacks on US or NATO partner forces. Unlike past one-off incidents, Iran is now firing repeated waves of missiles and drones, which makes ongoing near-real-time imagery far more tactically useful. Experts quoted by The Economist warn that today's image quality and sheer volume make real-time targeting and battle damage assessment much easier than before. Middlebury Institute of International Studies' Jeffrey Lewis said, and I quote, "The fact is that the quality and quantity of imagery is such that it is useful for battle damage assessment and targeting. I don't think anyone was prepared for a protracted war where the normal 24 or 48-hour delay wouldn't be good enough because operations were extending over weeks or maybe months." Unquote. Crucially, Planet's clampdown doesn't just blur US and allied bases, it also sweeps up imagery of Iran itself, from airfields to nuclear-linked facilities. A few exceptions leak through, such as a Vanter image of Iran's Talagan-2 site after a reported March 11th strike, but they are becoming rarer. Industry insiders quietly link the blackout to chatter about possible US Special Forces raids or sabotage missions inside Iran, which governments would want off the radar. Some experts openly speculate about scenarios such as Special Forces teams sent to seize highly enriched uranium or sensitive missile hardware on the ground. Researchers warn that this new secrecy makes it much harder to monitor Iran's nuclear facilities independently at a time of rising distrust. Sites like Bushehr, which are already off-limits or restricted for IAEA inspectors, are now harder to track from space as well. Planet insists it made the policy change independently, after consulting outside experts, not on direct orders from Washington. Even so, The Economist reports that the Trump administration has quietly pressed several firms over sensitive satellite imagery in the past year. America's National Reconnaissance Office has reportedly contacted commercial operators to discuss delaying or withholding certain sensitive photos. One analyst was even asked last year to pull images that appeared to show U.S. military movements, according to the same reporting. Some experts quoted by The Economist believe another goal may be to hide American losses and damaged hardware in this war. Early war satellite pictures had already revealed pinpoint Iranian hits on U.S. radar sites, logistics hubs and refineries in the region. Those same images undercut Gulf governments' talk of voluntary oil shutdowns by clearly showing physical damage at some export terminals. And this is not the first time Washington has tried to put commercial satellite pictures back in a box. U.S. rules once banned firms from releasing sharp satellite images of Israel at all, until foreign rivals made the policy pointless by selling their own. That restriction was finally dropped in 2020, as better foreign imagery made the old limits look absurd. Planet also delayed and degraded imagery from Gaza during the 2023 Israel-Hamas war under pressure and safety arguments. In May 2025, the EU degraded and delayed Sentinel-2 imagery over the Red Sea corridor, just as US and European forces fought Yemen's Houthis at sea. Interestingly, American companies no longer monopolize commercial eyes in the sky over the Middle East. Chinese constellations such as Jilin 1 and Seaway now sell rival high-resolution imagery to clients around the world. Europe's Airbus, backed by French and German stakes, flies its own optical and radar spysat fleet with separate rules. Airbus maintains its own restrictions, but it still released images of U.S. Gulf bases as recently as March 9th, showing bomb damage and activity. Analysts say the real problem now is cadence and revisit rate, how often you can see the same site, not raw image sharpness, which many players can now match. With authentic pictures delayed or blocked, fabricated visuals and AI-generated evidence are rushing in to fill the gap. Recently, Iranian media agency Tehran Times ran an AI-generated image of a shattered radome in Bahrain, claiming it showed a U.S. base strike. The picture claimed to document real damage, but investigators found it had been built entirely by software, not a satellite lens. Reduced satellite access makes it much harder to scrutinize both U.S. and Israeli strikes, or Iran's, in anything like real time. On February 28, when Tomahawk missiles hit a girls' school in Minab on day one of the war, OSINT teams could still get relatively fresh imagery. Investigators combined planet imagery with video and ground photos to map the exact buildings, impact points, and likely munitions involved. Their work showed precisely what had been hit and directly challenged early official narratives trying to blur responsibility. With imagery now delayed or blocked for weeks, investigations like that may become far rarer, leaving governments more room to spin and deny.